The press conference, the hall was packed. Journalists from every major media house filled the rows. Cameras clicked, microphones extended. Lights burned into every face seated on the platform. At the center sat Vincent, Carolyn, Detective Alani, and Ifama. Mama sat in the front row, her eyes glistening with quiet pride. Vincent leaned into the microphone. We are here to share, not just the truth, but the silenced voices of yesterday, the forgotten, the betrayed. He held up a notebook, now preserved in a protective case. This is the work of a man who tried to expose injustice 20 years ago. It was buried, but today, it will be heard. Caroline stepped forward next. This isn't about revenge, she said, her voice clear. It's about restoration. It's about giving our people the tools to build back what was stolen from them. Dignity, education, fairness. Gasps filled the room as pages from the notebook were shown on a projector. Interviews with farmers, whistleblower testimonies, photographs of beatings. The final image appeared. Isabella, Vincent's mother, leading a peaceful protest. The ripple effect by sunset. The news had reached every corner of the country. Social media exploded with hashtags. #IAudacious Notebook, #Truth is Freedom, #Caroline Speaks. Protests formed in small clusters, peaceful but determined. Young people raised placards. Old survivors of those injustices gave interviews. That evening, in a dark office across town, Chief Aotund watched the news with clenched fists. That girl, he hissed. And Benjamin's boy. One of his aides shifted nervously. Should we activate Plan B, sir? He didn't reply. Instead, he stood up, walked to the window, and whispered, Find me the traitor. Someone from our side is helping them. Mama's decision, meanwhile, at home. Mama sat alone with a photograph from her past, of herself, a young nanny, standing beside Benjamin and Isabella, with baby Vincent in her arms. She smiled through tears. They did it, Isabella, she whispered. Your son has become a lion. Later, she approached Caroline and said something unexpected. I want to return to my village. For a while, Caroline was shocked. Why? You've only just been safe. Mama smiled gently. Because now I can go home without shame. People need to know what happened to me too. And I want to tell your father's people who his daughter has become. They embraced tightly. Vincent stayed late that night. Vincent sat alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights. Caroline joined him with 2 mugs of cocoa. You okay? She asked. They're going to come harder now, he said. You know that, right? Caroline nodded. Let them come. Vincent chuckled, faintly. You weren't always this brave. I always was, she replied, smiling. I just didn't know it yet. A storm, gathering elsewhere. Olamide met with someone in a dark alley. You were right, he told the man. They have the files, and the media believes them. The figure, wearing a hat low over his eyes, lit a cigarette and nodded. Good, now we find the missing witness, the one from the Port Harcourt incident, and if we don't, then we make them talk, one way or another. A closing reflection. The camera fades to Caroline sitting at her desk, writing in a new notebook. Dear Daddy, she writes, I found your truth, but I also found mine. And now, the battle is no longer yours, it's mine. Mama's return to the village. The journey back to Mama's hometown was quiet but emotional. Caroline and Vincent drove her down in a modest convoy. No police, no security guards, just respect. As they arrived in the village of Odogwu, whispers spread. Isn't that Madame Chidinma? She used to work for the Benjamins. I thought she had died. Mama stepped out in her simple white wrapper and head tie. Time had bent her back slightly, but her spirit stood tall. She walked straight to the community center and stood on the old platform. Villagers gathered slowly. Curious, she cleared her throat. You may have heard stories. Some say I vanished. Some say I was disgraced. But today, I have come back not in shame but in strength. The crowd hushed. I was robbed, thrown out, and nearly killed. But God used a young woman and a son I once nursed to bring me back. She looked out at the crowd. We must stop hiding our pain. We must speak the truth. Dignity is not only for the rich. Caroline watched, eyes misty. Vincent placed his hand over hers. A rising star back in Lagos. Caroline received an unexpected call from the Global Integrity Forum, a respected international platform based in Ghana. We want you to deliver the keynote at this year's summit, the organizer said. Your story, your father's legacy, it needs to be heard. Caroline hesitated. I'm not a politician. I'm not a scholar. Exactly, the voice said. You're real, she accepted. Shadows at the Edgen, a luxury office tower uptown. Chief Aotund met with a new figure, Senator Falana, one of his old allies with deep roots in the oil sector. Your name came up in that notebook, Aotund said, lighting a cigar, and, the senator replied, and if that girl speaks in Accra, we're finished. Falana leaned forward, then maybe her plane never lands. Silence. That's a bit extreme, Aotund muttered. So is prison. They clinked glasses. Vincent's quiet fight while Caroline prepared for her speech. Vincent focused on the next battle, using IOTG's documents to launch a legal trust in Caroline's name to protect any future donations or inheritance from political seizure. With Detective Alanye, he also initiated a quiet investigation into threats made against Caroline's family. They'll try something, Vincent told him. Then we'll be ready, Alanye replied. An old flame reappears just when things seemed calm. Vincent received a message from Nkechi. I heard about the press conference. I saw your face again. I need to talk to you. In person, please. Caroline saw the message flash briefly on Vincent's phone. She didn't ask. Not yet, but her heart wondered, was this someone from his past, or someone from his heart? Closing moments that night, as Vincent and Caroline sat on the rooftop terrace under the stars, Caroline placed her head on his shoulder. What if something happens in Ghana? She asked quietly. Then I will be with you. Or I'll come find you always, and far away. In a dark room, a suitcase was opened. Inside, forged flight documents, a silenced pistol, and a photograph of Caroline. Departure. Morning. Caroline stood at the airport gate, her passport tight in her grip. She had barely slept the night before. Between preparing her speech and saying goodbye to Mama again, her heart was full. Vincent stood beside her in a crisp white shirt and jeans, trying to look calm, but his eyes scanned every corner of the terminal like a soldier waiting for a storm. You have everything, he asked. Passport, speech, courage, Caroline replied with a soft smile. He looked at her again. Then, slowly, he handed her a tiny velvet box. Open it when you get to your hotel in Ghana. Not before. What is it? A reason to come home. She raised a brow but nodded. "'Kay." When her boarding group was called, Vincent leaned in and whispered, "Don't trust anyone. If something feels wrong, run first. Question later." Caroline nodded. Their eyes met for a long moment, full of the weight of all they hadn't said yet. Then she walked into the tunnel, toward the plane. Unwelcome passengers. 3 rows behind Caroline sat a man in a gray suit, thin, quiet, expressionless. He sipped water and scrolled through photos on his phone. One of the photos was of Caroline. His name was Musa Corve, a former military intelligence officer turned mercenary. He had been paid in full. A message from the past. Back in Lagos, Mama opened her compound gate and found a man standing there, tall, gray-bearded, dressed like a retired teacher. "Chidinma?" he asked softly. "Ezekiel," she gasped. They hadn't seen each other in 31 years. "I came because I heard your voice on the radio. I had to see you." Mama's heart beat faster. This was the man she had once loved, before life, poverty, and choices separated them. "Come inside," she said. "Let the past take a seat." Trouble in Accra. Caroline arrived safely at Kotoka International Airport in Ghana. A young woman named Ama, from the Integrity Forum, met her with a banner and smile. "You're the Nigerian woman who brought down half your country's silence," Ama joked as they drove. Caroline laughed lightly but kept checking the rearview mirror. Her hotel was elegant but discreet, tucked behind trees in East Legon. Her room overlooked a small garden. That night, she finally opened the velvet box Vincent had given her. Inside was a gold necklace. On the pendant were the words, "You saved my soul before I even knew it needed saving." Tears filled her eyes. The move. Meanwhile, back in Nigeria, Vincent received a strange text from an unknown number. "She won't make it to the stage. No name. No trace." He called Alanye. "Someone's watching her." "I'll call the Ghanaians now," Alanye said. "We're not losing her." Vincent stared out the window. "If they touch her," he whispered. "They won't," Alanye said firmly. Accra, midnight. Around 2:13 a.m. Caroline was awakened by a soft knock. She didn't answer. The knock came again. Then, silence. She reached for her phone, but the line was dead. Then she saw the shadow under the door. Someone was outside. She moved to the window quietly, slid open the curtains just an inch. A man in a gray suit stood below, looking straight up. Her breath caught in her throat. The chase begins at that very moment. Amma, who lived close by, received a call from Caroline using the hotel staff's emergency line. Amma, someone's here, I think I'm being followed. Stay inside. I'm coming now, Amma replied, but Amma never made it. Her car tires were slashed, her phone battery dead within seconds. Someone was jamming her signals. Back in the hotel, Caroline made a decision. She grabbed her bag, tied a scarf around her hair, and slipped out the back fire exit. She had no idea where she was going, only that she had to move. Now, dark streets of Accra. Caroline slipped through the back alley behind her hotel, clutching her bag close. She kept to the shadows, her heart pounding like drums in her chest. The streets of Accra, though usually vibrant, were eerily quiet at this hour. She didn't know where she was going, only that someone wanted her silenced and soon. A bus rumbled by on the main road, empty. A stray dog barked from behind a fence. Then she heard its footsteps, steady, confident, not far behind. She ducked behind a pile of cement blocks, near a building under construction. The man, in the gray suit Musa Kure, walked by slowly, scanning the street. His eyes passed over her hiding spot, and paused. Caroline held her breath. Then a voice behind her whispered, "You don't want to die tonight, follow me." She turned quickly. A young man in a delivery rider's jacket stood in the shadows. He pointed toward a waiting motorbike. She hesitated. "Who sent you?" she asked. "Vincent." That was all she needed. She ran. Vincent crosses the border back in Nigeria. Vincent's private jet was grounded for technical inspection. He didn't wait. He and Alani drove to the Sim border before dawn, with contacts in immigration and a little incentive. They crossed into Ghana by road, using alternate IDs. Vincent wore a caplo over his eyes. "She's out there somewhere," he muttered. "And that assassin?" Alani asked. "Kure, if he touches her, I swear." Vincent didn't finish the sentence. Safe house. Caroline held tightly to the back of the motorbike. As it sped through narrow streets, they cut through alleyways and side roads until they reached a compound surrounded by tall trees. "Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone but me," the rider said. "Wait, what's your name?" she asked. "Michael. I used to work for Vincent's father. Now I work for him." He drove off. Caroline stepped inside the one-room apartment. There was bottled water, a clean mattress, and a loaded phone. She picked up the phone and dialed Vincent. Reconnection. Vincent picked up before the first ring ended. "Caroline, I'm safe for now. Tell me where a man named Michael brought me. He said you sent him." Vincent exhaled deeply. Then, gently, "Stay hidden. I'm already in Ghana." Caroline closed her eyes and smiled softly. "Thank you for not giving up. You're the one who never gave up. Caroline, I'm just catching up to you." Meanwhile, in a luxury hotel across the city, Musa Kore sat at a laptop, uploading a series of audio recordings. In one of them, Vincent could be heard talking about underground land purchases and discreet funding. Kore smiled to himself. "If I can't touch her, I'll destroy him." He sent the files to an anonymous email, Office of Internal Anti-Corruption. Then he dialed a foreign number. Plan A, failed. Move to Plan B. Blow the story before she speaks. Scandal erupts. It was 6:42 a.m. in Lagos when Vincent's phone began vibrating non-stop. He rubbed his eyes, barely awake. Caroline was still asleep on the far end of the line, but the messages kept flooding in. Breaking news: prominent Nigerian philanthropist Vincent Ayodeji, allegedly linked to secret land deals and foreign laundering. Leaked audio suggests deep-rooted financial manipulation. Vincent sat up quickly, heart racing. "What the pip?" He grabbed his laptop. The clips were already viral. Headlines ran wild. Hashtags #Vincent exposed, #from saint to scam, and #Caroline single quotes as silence. A trusted friend sent him a message. "This is a setup. They're coming for both of you. Be careful." Caroline's moment. Meanwhile, in Accra, Caroline stood backstage at the Global Integrity Forum. She was minutes away from delivering the keynote speech that could change her life and challenge powerful enemies. She was wearing a simple emerald green dress, hair pulled back, lips trembling only slightly. A UN official leaned toward her. "Are you sure you still want to speak?" With the controversy involving Mr. Ayodeji, Caroline looked toward the curtains, where a full auditorium waited. She took a deep breath. "That man is the only reason I'm alive. I trust him. And I will speak." Mama's visitor back in Lagos. Mama sat on the veranda of her newly built house. Her bones ached slightly from sleep, but her spirit felt alive. A taxi pulled up at her gate. From it stepped a young woman in dark glasses and a denim jacket. She removed the glasses slowly. Mama Chidinma. Yes, my dear. Who are you? I'm Nkechi. I was very close to Vincent. Mama's brow furrowed. What do you want? Nkechi sat on the bench beside her. To warn you, the men behind this scandal, they'll stop at nothing. I used to be part of their world, but now, I want out. And I want to help Vincent. Mama studied her for a long moment, then speak. Start from the beginning. Caroline's speech begins. Caroline's speech begins. Caroline walked up to the podium. The room hushed. She stood still, like a quiet tree, before a storm. My name is Caroline. I'm not a politician. I'm not famous, but I am a survivor. She paused. When I was 10, my father tried to expose corruption. He was murdered in front of me. For years, I lived in silence, in poverty, until I returned a stranger's wallet one day. And that stranger changed my life. Camera lights flashed. Some frowned. Some leaned forward. You may have heard the headlines. I'm here to speak the truth. Enemies stir in a dark corner office in Abuja. Chief Aotend watched her on screen. She's speaking anyway, he muttered. Falana. Beside him, poured a drink. Let her. Once the documents drop, she'll lose credibility. Aotund shook his head. Unless she tells the truth before we do. Vincent's choice. Vince stood alone on a rooftop in Accra, the city buzzing below him. He held his phone in his hand. A video file was open. The full audio clip of his conversation with Alani Ye, taken out of context. He had a choice. Release the uncut version now, and risk dragging Alani into danger, or stay silent, and watch his name fall apart. Then, Caroline's voice came from the TV nearby. Integrity isn't always quiet. Sometimes, it must shout. Vincent lifted the phone and hit upload all. The upload that shook a nation. Within an hour of Vincent uploading the full, uncut audio recording, the narrative flipped. Instead of whispers of corruption, the world now heard context discussions about land for displaced families, discreet purchases to avoid political interference, and the tension of working in a broken system with clean hands. Vindicate Vincent began trending. Channels that ran the original false narrative scrambled to apologize. Several high-profile media outlets issued statements of retraction. Vincent sat in a quiet room, watching as justice slowly turned its wheels back in his favor. But he wasn't smiling. This was never just about me, he whispered. Caroline's revelation still standing at the podium. Caroline felt the shift in the room. Phones buzzed. Screens lit up. Someone from the audience called out. Vincent just cleared his name. A soft murmur passed through the crowd like wind through dry grass. Caroline inhaled deeply. Now that the truth is free, let me give you mine. She reached into the folder beside her and pulled out a worn, black and white photograph. This was taken the night my father died. You can't see their faces, but if you look closely, one of the men wore a distinctive gold ring. I've kept this picture for years. She paused, looking directly at the cameras. I believe that ring belongs to a man in this room today. Gasps echoed through the auditorium. A tall man in the third row shifted nervously. Nkechi's Lagos. Mama listened quietly as Nkechi poured out the truth. I was recruited when I was 17. They used me to spy on political targets. I recorded calls, stole passwords, delivered bribes. I was just a child but useful to them. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small USB stick. This contains a list of every person they tried to blackmail. Your son's name is on it, but not because he did anything wrong. They were trying to ruin him before he rose too high. Mama wiped her eyes with the edge of her wrapper. Why are you telling me all this? Nkechi looked down. Because I did things I can't forgive myself for, and maybe, just maybe, this is how I begin to make it right. The ring back at the forum. Security approached the tall man who had tried to slip out unnoticed. Caroline stepped down from the stage, holding the photo tightly. You were a guest in my father's home the week before he died. You wore that same ring then. I was 8, but I remember your voice. The man didn't speak, but he didn't deny it. Then someone else stood up, an older woman in the audience. That's Senator Bello, she said. He was head of the task force in 1997, the year her father was assassinated. The silence was heavy. Senator Bello turned and began to walk away, but two security guards blocked his path. Vincent and Caroline reunite later that evening. Caroline waited at the gardens of her hotel. The air was cool, quiet. The stars looked down like gentle witnesses. Vincent arrived without a driver, without guards. Just him. Caroline turned at the sound of footsteps. Their eyes met. For a moment, they said nothing. Then Vincent spoke. "You were incredible today." She smiled softly. "So were you." He walked closer, hands in his pockets. "We were both thrown into fire, and somehow, we came out holding gold." Caroline nodded. Her eyes shimmered with tired gratitude. "So, what now?" Vincent looked up at the sky. "Now, we build what they tried to destroy." He reached into his jacket and handed her an envelope. "This was your father's final letter. Someone found it in the National Archive, hidden behind a sealed cabinet. It's yours now." Caroline took it, holding it close to her chest. The letter unveiled back in Caroline's hotel room in Accra. She sat beside a small lamp with the sealed envelope trembling in her hands. The paper felt aged, brittle, a remnant of a past she never fully knew. Inside, in careful, confident handwriting, the words read, "My daughter, if you're reading this, know that I believed in you before the world did. What I couldn't say then, I say now. You are the light that even my absence could not dim. I promised your mother I would find a way to give you a voice. I've left behind a token hidden that will open doors for you when the time is right." At the bottom was a small, hand-drawn map to a safe in a bank in Port Harcourt. Tears fell freely from Caroline's eyes. "He really did promise," she whispered. "Papa, I'm coming." Senator Bello, in the crosshairs. Nigerian media buzzed. Caroline's name, along with Senator Bello's allegations, dominated the news across Lagos. The senator's mansion was surrounded by cameras and protests. Pressure rose. Political allies whispered about a quiet resignation, but Senator Bello refused. "I did nothing wrong," he told supporters. "These are lies from the past." But as Caroline's speech spread online and the letter captured hearts, the momentum shifted. Net sentiment. 70% believe the senator is guilty. Vincent's warning late that night. Vincent stepped outside the compound in Accra to make a call, his face drawn with fatigue. "Alanie," he said quietly. "Senator Bello is cornered, but this pushes someone else into the fray." "What do you mean?" Alanie replied. "Another name came up today. Someone key in the Dimoy scandal. International money trails. We'll track it." Vincent exhaled slowly. "We're only halfway up the mountain." A dangerous delivery the next morning. Caroline received a discreet package at the Global Integrity Forum, a small, silver-lined satchel with the same wax seal from her father's original envelope. Inside was a tiny key, stamped with the Okafor family crest and a note. "This opens everything. Your path now begins in Port Harcourt." BEO. Caroline pulled out her phone and immediately called Vincent. "Papa left me a key," she said. "He did," Vincent replied. "Let's get you home." Preparation and resolve. They booked a private charter for Port Harcourt, arriving at dusk. The city's lights shimmered over the water. At the bank, Caroline received 2 forms of security clearance. She held the silver key tightly as she stepped into the safe deposit room. Vincent waited outside, watching the door. Then she emerged, holding a small wooden box. Revelation. Together, they stepped into a private car. Inside the box, a single USB drive, no other papers. Caroline pulled it out. "I think this is it," she said softly. Vincent took it gently. "Let's find out what your father left inside." And as the car disappeared into the night, the USB gleamed like a promise of a new beginning, or the beginning of the final storm. The moment of truth. Inside Vincent's safe house in Port Harcourt, the lights were dimmed. Vincent sat at the desk, the USB in his hand. Caroline sat beside him, fingers nervously gripping the edge of the chair. A single laptop lay open. "Are you ready?" Vincent asked. "Yes," Caroline whispered. He plugged the USB in. The screen flickered to life. A folder appeared. It was labeled BEO Eyes Only. Vincent opened it. Inside were hundreds of files, documents, voice recordings, spreadsheets, and one final video message. Caroline's heart skipped. "Play the video," she said. The voice from the past. The video opened to an office, simple, well-lit, with shelves full of law books. A man sat at the desk, proud, confident that it was Caroline's father, Barrister Edwin Okafor. "If you are watching this," he began, Then the truth is ready. He went on to detail years of corruption tied to the Des Moines energy scandal, naming Senator Bello, Governor Yoakim, and even foreign firms laundering billions through fake contracts. He looked directly into the camera. They tried to silence me, but justice will always outlive tyranny. Caroline's hand covered her mouth as tears streamed down. Vincent paused the video. We need to copy this. Fast. Wait, Caroline said. Let's finish it. He deserves that. Truth or war. Meanwhile, Senator Bello received an encrypted call from an unknown line. The USB is unlocked. They have the video. Silence. What do we do? The caller asked. There's only one option. The senator replied coldly. Send, Ocone. The line went dead. Far across the city, a man in a black leather jacket zipped a small duffel bag. Inside were silencers, a burner phone, and a photo of Caroline. A race against time. Vincent and Caroline backed up the USB contents on 3 encrypted drives. Then, using his private channel, he called a journalist contact from London's International Justice Watch. We're sending you something, he said. How explosive, history-changing. Within the hour, the data was uploaded to 3 international servers. Caroline's father's final legacy was now indestructible. The attack, but just before dawn, as the compound settled into quiet sleep, the power flickered. Caroline was in the hallway when the first shot cracked through the wall. Glass shattered. Vincent ducked, pulling her down. They found us, he hissed. He grabbed a hidden pistol from under the couch. Alani shouted from the back room, already firing back. Get Caroline out, he yelled. Vincent grabbed Caroline's hand and led her to the back entrance. They slipped into the garden, crawling under hedges as 2 gunmen stormed the house. Another shot rang out. Vincent felt a sharp burn in his arm but kept going. We can't stop now, he gasped. Escape. And resolved, they reached a waiting car down the street. The driver, Michael, opened the door. Go, go, Caroline shouted. As they sped off. She looked back at the burning compound behind them. They tried to bury my father's truth, she whispered. Now the whole world will know. Vincent, clutching his injured arm, turned to her with a faint smile. And you'll be the one to finish what he started. The upload that shook a nation by dawn. The video had gone viral. Caroline's father's testimony, naming key political players in the Des Moines energy scandal, aired on major news platforms around the world. Social media exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for OKFOR, hashtag Des Moines Leaks, and hashtag Caroline Speaks trended globally. International news anchors repeated the same chilling phrase from the video. They tried to silence me, but justice will always outlive tyranny. In Lagos, Port Harcourt, and even Abuja, mass protests erupted. Young people poured into the streets, placards held high, banners painted with Caroline's face beside her father's. Whistles blew, drums pounded, hope burned bright. The call from The Hague. Vincent paced Caroline's hospital room, where her arm had just been bandaged. He held his phone tightly. On the other end of the line was a representative from the International Criminal Tribunal in The Hague. Miss Caroline Okafor must appear before the tribunal as a principal witness, the woman said. We'll arrange security and travel. Vincent hung up, turned to her. You're going to testify, Caroline? She sat up straighter. For my father, she said. For everyone they buried. Cracks in the circulator that night, while Caroline slept. Vincent stepped outside to make a secure call. Alania met him under the dim backlight of the safe house. Did you notice? Alani asked. What? The generator failed 5 minutes before the attack. The backup to Vincent's eyes narrowed. That's not a coincidence. They both stood in silence for a moment. Someone, on the inside, gave up our location. Vincent clenched his jaw. He thought of the driver, the cook, even his tech guy back in Lagos. We clean house. Now, the senator falls back in Abuja. Senator Bello's mansion was raided by anti-corruption forces. He was arrested live on camera. His lawyer tried to block reporters, but it was too late. His voice was caught on one of the leaked recordings. If that man keeps talking, I swear to God, we'll bury his daughter too. The world recoiled. Protests became global. Sanctions against complicit foreign companies were proposed overnight, and yet, a deeper shadow loomed. The assassin's new target somewhere in the outskirts of Asaba. A satellite phone rang. She's flying to The Hague, said the voice. This time, I won't miss, replied Ocone. The cold assassin, hired by the senator's secret allies. He opened a box. Inside were 3 photos. Caroline, Vincent, Olanie. Then he lit a match, and smiled. A new chapter begins. Caroline stood at the airport terminal, her passport in one hand, boarding pass in the other. Her face was calm, but her heart raced. The world now knew her name not just as the daughter of a murdered whistleblower, but as a symbol of justice. Vincent stood beside her, arm still in a sling from the bullet wound. His eyes scanned the crowd with sharp precision. Two security agents, hired privately by him, flanked them quietly. "No one's getting near you," he said softly. "Unless they're already here," Caroline replied, half joking. But they both knew it wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was survival. Passenger in seat 12CAs, they boarded the flight to The Hague. Caroline was placed in business class. Vincent sat 2 rows behind her. Between them, a man in a black cap lowered his sunglasses and glanced once at his watch. Seat 1-C. He had boarded late. Caroline didn't notice, but Vincent did. "Flight crew," he whispered to one of the agents seated nearby. "Get me a passenger list. I don't like the look of 1-C." The agent nodded. The plane took off. Somewhere over the Mediterranean, turbulence rocked the aircraft briefly. The man in 12C adjusted his jacket, just slightly revealing a patch of steel near his waistline. The revelation in the clouds. An hour into the flight, Vincent received an encrypted message on his tablet. It was from Alanye. "The tech guy is dirty. He sold our route to a middleman in Calabar." Vincent's heart dropped. His eyes moved to Caroline, peacefully asleep under a blanket. And then 1-C stood up. Vincent followed in the narrow corridor near the restroom. He cornered him. "You're not going to make it back to your seat," Vincent said coldly. The man didn't flinch. "You don't know what you're dealing with," he replied. "Try me." They stood there, silent, both hands twitching near concealed weapons. But then, the flight crew intervened. "Is there a problem, gentlemen?" "No," Vincent said smoothly, "just stretching." As 1-C walked back toward his seat, Vincent whispered to his agent, "Don't let him leave your sight. If he moves too fast, drop him." The hidden file. Meanwhile, back in Nigeria, Alanye was digging deeper into the USB's contents. He had just cracked the encryption on a subfolder labeled Project ND23. Inside were blueprint schematics for an experimental gas pipeline running directly beneath a densely populated Lagos district. "What is this?" Alanye murmured. "Buff." Then he saw the final piece. A document signed by the late Governor Yukim, and countersigned by a European tech firm. "They planned an explosion," he whispered, "landing, and a new target." As the plane descended into Amsterdam, Vincent reached into his pocket and palmed a small tracker. Without hesitation, he slipped it into the inner pocket of 12C's jacket. The man never noticed. As they disembarked, Vincent pulled Caroline close. "We're not safe yet, but we're close." The end. Or the beginning. Outside the terminal, news cameras waited. Caroline's face appeared on screens across Europe. Journalists shouted questions. "Miss Okafor, will you testify? Is it true your father predicted his own death? Do you believe Nigerian officials will be prosecuted?" Caroline paused, then raised her head high. "My father believed the truth mattered. So do I. That's why I'm here." The crowd erupted in cheers, but across the street, behind a window, 12C watched them, silent, focused, a phone to his ear. "She made it," he said. "Then, Plan B begins. To be continued." If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe to Daily African Tales, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice keeps our stories alive. Special thanks to Mr. Masin for being part of this storytelling journey.